Okay, so many of you have asked, what in the world are the subjects that I asked innocently at a mosque that would get me banned? So here you are. First of all, let me give you context. So there's a mosque near me. They have a whole interfaith page on their website saying, come and ask any questions that you would like. I show up, I meet the imam. He says the same thing to me. He's like, listen, you can ask any questions, nothing's off the table. And in fact, you can talk to anybody you want in this lobby. They all have great answers to the questions you're gonna have. So that's a wide open invitation to talk to anybody, to ask any questions. But you press fast forward and all of a sudden, I start asking questions that made supposedly people feel uncomfortable.
Like Zach and Muhammad saying, yeah, he comes up to people and he asks them about Islamic governance and its ability to take over the government. I did find a lot of your questions and the way you were not, the questions you were asking weren't about Islam in general. They seemed, let's just simply put the type of questions that make people uncomfortable.
So what are those subjects? Well, first of all, I began to ask questions like, hey, Islam always says, you hear that it's a religion of peace. Is it really a religion of peace? When I study the old historical records, look at Muhammad's life, hadith, the Quran, is it really that, or does it advance by force? Then I began to ask things about what's the end game goal of Islam? Is it to take over the world as I hear, to bring every inch of this world under Sharia law? What is Sharia law? Does it really give freedom of religion, or does it say to certain religions you cannot proselytize or evangelize? Does Sharia law mean that there's no equal justice, or will you have equal justice? A man, a woman, a Muslim, a non-Muslim dhimmi. Then I began to ask freedom of speech. Can you talk about anything under Sharia law, or are things off the table that you can criticize? For instance, like the Quran, like Muhammad, and so on. So I began to ask those things, and all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm being banned because I'm asking questions innocently. Now, let me say this. At that point, I was innocent when I was asking those things, but I now have my answers, and I'm not innocently asking anymore. I know the truth. And so, for instance, at the end of it all, I ended up challenging the imam to a public debate on whether Islam advances by force. He agreed to it. His board said no. He then went and got the Orthodox Muslim, who then, when I gave him the premise that the imam and I came up with together, that we would discuss, does Islam advance by force? He, the Orthodox Muslim, laughed at it and said it was a silly premise. Of course, Islam advances by force, and he refused to do the debate. So again, I now have my answer to that question. But let me flip this around. Imagine if a Muslim comes into a church and they ask, hey, what's the end game goal of Christianity? Is it to take over the world and bring everybody under the rules of Jesus and the New Testament? If that is the case, under those rules, is there freedom of religion, or does everybody have to submit to Christianity, and you can't have other religions evangelize under a Christian rule? Is there equal justice for people under Christianity and that rule? Is there freedom of speech, or are there things you can't criticize, like Jesus or the Bible or so on? And so none of those things are going to be ban someone from asking those questions innocently in a church. And in fact, we have great answers for all of those things. But the only thing I can think of is that the only reason that people don't want to answer questions is either one, they don't know the answer and they don't want to look foolish. Two, they know the answer, but they don't like it, and so they try to hide it. Or three, they know the answer, they like it, and they're trying to hide it. Imagine if this is how they're treating someone like me. Imagine what this could be happening by the leadership of a mosque to their own people who within Islam might be asking innocent, good questions. Do they shun them? Do they ban them? Do they do something to silence them?